Hey monkeys, how you doing? Damian Keys here. Welcome to the hashtag Ask Damo show number 16. Ooh. Look at that.
There we go.
We're going to run our hands soon. So this is the show where we get asked questions throughout the week, and this is the quickest way that I can actually answer the question at a point where you guys can see the answer, so that I'm not repeating myself a billion times.
Well, rocking it.
Pretty in pink is what I can say. Thanks to Box Tape for sending me this in. I am loving pink, so and I'm wearing it. So
we're both in pink today.
I know.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. So as always, with me is Melissa.
Hello.
So we have some questions.
We have some questions.
We have a cup of tea, which is, if anyone knows me, and you all do, the most important part of the day. This is probably my 18th cup of tea today.
Fresh bats. Cool, except tea. Okay, so this is from Lewis, and he says, "Hey Damo, any tips on how to create merch? Do you use one of the t-shirt creation websites, or do you do it yourself by buying the t-shirts and printing them?"
Very good question. And I am wearing them. I get sent a lot of merch, which I very much appreciate. And as we are talking about quite a lot, we are trying to fill up the walls. We're trying to do more stuff. So bands should have merch. It's it's a really important thing. I think there's a lot of questions around merch and what you can do with it. That I could probably do an entire show with 10 different questions all featured on merch, which I would like to go in more. So maybe I'll do do you know what we should do? I'm looking at doing some new types of videos. Maybe we should do an entire video where we just talk about all of the positives of merch. Because I think it is a very positive. When it comes to how you design it and do you use a company, I think there are a few rules that I find. I tend to use companies to do it for me because I'm not very creative, I'm not a designer, but you guys might be. You tend to work on your logos and have all that ready, and you just send that straight through to a t-shirt company. I'm looking at getting some merch done for this, mostly not because I want people to buy the merch, but mostly because I think it's a good thing to do as competition prizes and get it out there. So I use a company. I've got a friend. If you've got any questions specifically about technicalities on merch, Johnny from T-Merch is a really good guy to answer those questions. He's got a merch company. He's in a band, and so he understands it from both ends of being in a band and also from the print company. So I'll put T-Merch's merch details below. I think with this question, what I would say is, I think personally that we get sent through a lot of t-shirts, and I think the quality of t-shirt is so important, because back when I was a kid and everyone used to use those Fruit of the Loom t-shirts, and they never fitted really well, and I'm sure they were fine to print on, and you could keep the costs down, but what is the point in putting money into a t-shirt unless it's done right? I really believe that, and I think in order to cut a couple of costs so that it's a bit cheaper is fine, but the amount of merch t-shirts that will sit in people's drawers because they don't want to wear them, I think that's the question. And I would rather pay for a proper design, and I'd prefer to pay for a bit better quality of the t-shirts, because I feel like that people will buy them. So one of my favorite t-shirts that I have is a band called the Excerts, who are Brighton band Excerts, and I absolutely love them. And I wear the t-shirt all the time. I've kind of worn it out. 2 reasons. Number one, because I love the band, but number 2, because it is as cool as any other t-shirt I've got. I'm not wearing it to do them a favour, and I'm also not wearing it to show I'm a fan of Exodus. I'm just wearing it because I love the t-shirt. The quality of it fits well. The slogan on it's really cool. The branding, the font of it's really cool. So there's no favours. There's no Brighton, and I know the guys. It's just, I love that t-shirt. I love that band. It all goes together well. There's other bands which I've been sent t-shirts, and I'm like, I love the band, but I just don't quite feel comfortable wearing the t-shirt because it's not cool enough. One, I'm sure, people who are working in merch will tell you this as well, but one thing I find with band t-shirts is they maximize all the space, and so they just go, we've got all this space, we might as well get as much of the real estate used as possible, and that's great if you like that. Personally, I don't like that. I don't want everything everywhere, and it's got like the logo, and it's got the website and how you get in touch, and it's just a little bit uncool if you do that. And I think from a band point of view, I like it so that it's a bit more subtle myself, and therefore I will probably more likely to wear the t-shirt. And for me, how much people wear the t-shirt is more important than what is on the t-shirt. Because if you've got just the logo and the website across it and no one wears it, it's great advertising, but no one's going to give a shit. So I think for me, it's all about how you can get people to actually wear that t-shirt, and it only has to have a slightly cool logo in one place, or whatever you want it to be, or a color that people go, oh, I love the color of that. But to make people say, oh, I want to wear that, for me, is a question that isn't being asked when people are dealing with merch. I feel like people are looking at prices, they're looking at costs, they're looking at where to go. They're not looking at how we can actually get this onto someone. Because if you can actually make a t-shirt that somebody wants to actually wear, then you'll be able to sell it. You know, and one thing we talk about is how you're going to monetize what you do. So the other day, I was chatting to Bruce, and right at the end of the conversation, he said, do you think there's any way back for selling music and how music can be monetized? And I said, no, I think you're asking the wrong question. In my opinion, that's a traditional way. How can we make music valuable again? We can't. But what we can do is we can look at what else we can monetize, and the music is just one thing. Merchandise is a great way of doing it. But merchandise is not saying you love the band so much that you have to wear this t-shirt because you want to be part of the club. That worked. That did work in the 80s and part of the 90s, where you were like, I love the band so much that I'll wear whatever t-shirt. Nowadays, people are a little bit more savvy. If the t-shirt doesn't work sort of right, if it doesn't fit right, if it doesn't feel right, they might love the band, they won't wear the t-shirt. So for me, you might not be able to monetize your music, but there's other things. Merchandise is a definite way you can monetize it. However, you have to be looking at quality for me. I get sent through t-shirts all the time. Sometimes you guys send me t-shirts, and without even looking at who you are or the band, sometimes I just think, God, I'd wear that. 100%. I'll just wear that whenever. I think it's fantastic. Other times I'm thinking, I'll wear that for you guys because I want to support you guys, and I want to be a part of that. You don't want that. You don't want people thinking like that. You want people to look at your t-shirts and go, I just want that. I want that t-shirt. That's a great design. What it stands for. That's what you want.
Also, if people like the merch, then they'll find out more about the band because
100%.
they'll want to be able to wear it.
Yeah,
so.
I think people make it so obvious that they have to have the name, the logo, and their advertising, and sometimes it's just having a thing that people say, that's a cool t-shirt, because it's just that branding. I think it just becomes too obvious if you're using the real estate just to really hammer it home.
Yeah, it backfires. Okay, cool. So question number 2 is from James, and he says, hi Damo, great advice for session drummers. As a working player myself, I find it really hard to post every time I'm working and keep the content fresh. There's only so many shots of my kit, stages, etc. that I can use. How can I vary my content?
Yes. So I'm saying to people, you've got to up your game. You've got to start pushing the content. If you're looking at where social media across the all platforms is right now, you know, there's this question of quality versus quantity, and I'm saying that's not a question. The question is, you have to have quality and you have to have quantity. Simple as that. I'm just going to hand my phone. Do some Instagram-y bits. The quality and the quantity, they both have to be up there. You can't have great quality and one video every 6 months, because you're not going to get the momentum. And if you have just really loads of videos every day but no one gives a shit about them, then that's a problem. So in which case, what is it that you are going to put? Because he's right, there's only so many times that you can actually put a picture of your kit on. However, for me, this is about storytelling. So I think you can do all of those things. You can post pictures of the kit and the stage, but I think the way this has been phrased is, it doesn't sound like you're posting stories. Because if you look at TV, for example, on TV, you go and watch a film, most TV programs, especially one-off things, the story is very, very simple. The story goes back to prehistoric times, where it has a very, very simple beginning, middle, and an end. And that is, it sets the scene. You think something's going to happen. It has a bit of kind of problematic, a bit of like, oh, what's going to happen now? And then it's a big payoff at the end. Now that's your kind of classic story. I think with just saying, I'm at a gig, here's a picture of me, that's not a story really. unless you're telling a story over a long period of time. I think it's nice to have almost stories almost daily or weekly. So for me, I think of it more as the story and just less of random content. If you're putting something out there, it's either got to bring value to someone, or it's got to be a story that people will buy into and therefore want to see the next thing, which again means you are bringing value to someone. So I think, yes, with shots of kit and shots of the stage and the gigs. However, what about the emotional side to it? What about how you're feeling about that gig? What about the trials and tribulations have gone on to that gig? What about what this gig means and what comes next from this gig? And you're setting up the next picture. So all of that to me is more important than just a picture. So a picture can tell a story. However, like you said, once you've done it 10 times, is it the same story again and again and again? So for me, the storytelling is very, very important. And so I would look into a bit more behind the scenes, a little bit earlier, rather than just here's a picture of us on stage, gone. I'd be looking at, we're very excited because today we're traveling to the O2 Academy because we're playing the O2. It's our biggest gig today, and that's very, very exciting. And then the setup of it, so you can see, oh, this is quite exciting. Then there's a bit of you guys being like, oh, there's some problem, or maybe not even a problem. It might just be, this is it, we're really excited, we're getting ready for it. Is it going to be okay? Is it going to go right? Is it going to go wrong? And then there's a picture of you on stage. So that to me is a story, and people will follow that journey, and then they'll be excited to come back the next day. Then after that bit, I would say it really is a case of doing this again and again and again and again. Just finding slightly different angles. You know, if you're a band, if you go and playing a gig, then you don't change your set list, you don't change your songs on the whole. You go and do the same thing night in, night, and people will come and follow you again and again and again. We are not trying to hit different people every single day. We're just telling the story of what we're doing. So if you are a drummer, then you are not trying to change the world with every single post. What you are trying to do is you're trying to remind people that you're there, and you're trying to the right place at the right time. Someone who just happens to watch it or share it and say, oh man, I need a drummer, this is perfect. So it's part of it's constant reminders, part of it's a bit of a diary, it's keeping people on the journey. It's so many different things. So can you carry on just doing the same thing day in, day out, day in, day out? On the whole, I do think you can. I think there's a lot of room that people will say, well, I've done that once, and half the people will go, I missed half this, I wasn't really paying attention. You're full on into this, you remember everything that you've just done. But there's so many things which I've repeated and regurgitated 100 times, and then people will go, oh, I like that bit that you did this week, and I'm thinking, God, I've said that 100 times, but it's only now that it's sunk in. That's the power. That's advertising and marketing. That's what it is. It's going again and again and again. And someone goes, sometimes some people even say that thing that you did, you've said that before, and I'm like, yeah, but you haven't fucking done it. So I'm going to carry on saying it until you do it. So that's what advertising and marketing is. So I do think you're not going to piss people off, and if you do, then so what? If you piss someone off and they go, ugh, I don't like what you do, but you're still gaining momentum, you're still gaining new followers who are engaging with you, and you lose someone, then that's fine. You're not trying to target that person. What you're trying to do is you're trying to just tell your story and say, this is what I'm doing, so people can see the social proof, and it builds the trust, and they're seeing you playing. If someone sees you play 5 gigs a week, they might not want to see you play 5 gigs a week because they might get bored of that, but you better believe it'll be going in here. They'll be thinking, wow, that's amazing, James is playing 5 gigs a week, he must be bloody good. And that elevates you above. So when you're at college and there's 20 people on your course, you don't have to be 100% better than everybody else, you just have to be 5% better. And that is when people start going, that's the guy I want. Not because he brings something to the table more than everybody else. And someone who gigs 5 days a week or 7 days a week or is putting this content will automatically be lifted above the competition, because people will assume from how busy you are that you must be good.
So to kind of sum up what you were saying there, do you think emotion is perhaps like the most important part of content? Or the storytelling?
The storytelling is, yes. I think the storytelling is. I think emotion is something that musicians, musicians have the power of creating emotion instantly. So, you know, a musician can pick up an instrument, doesn't matter whether it's drums, guitar, bass, vocals, can pick up an instrument and can provoke laughter, happiness, sadness, anger, rage, you know, all of these emotions that you can be able to trigger instantly, and you don't. And so many times when people say, review my Facebook, and if you want one, this is the punchline right here. If you want one thing, it is, when I go on your Facebook, I'm not seeing the thing that you do. I see all the adverts, I see you pushing everything, and I'm like, so if you're a songwriter, show me your fucking songs again and again and again and again. If you're a drummer, hit the fucking drums again and again and again. And I don't see that. What I'm actually seeing is, here's a picture of the drums, and I'm like, well, that's pretty, but I'm not seeing you play the drums. I like it if it's a stage shot, because then I'm like, wow, the audience is loving it and I'm getting the story. That's when it's a story. But on the whole, the amount of times that I'll see a band and it takes me like sort of 3 scrolls down the page before there's a video of the band, and I'd be like, well, that's what I want to see the band. That's the whole point of it, is I want to see the band being the band. So for me, that's the punchline, is for James and anyone who wants to promote themselves. Promote yourselves by doing it and doing it and doing it. And if someone comes to you and says, oh, fucking stop it, then maybe don't stop it by any stretch. But what I would do is say, all right, let's do something a bit different. You know, creativity is key. So, you know, I would say things like your surroundings. For example, if you're playing drums in your bedroom, stick your drums in your car, take them down to the beach, set them up, and do the same thing on the beach, and all of a sudden you have an entire different story, because someone will go, you took his drums to the beach, it's hilarious. Or, you know, or something different where you're just changing one part of the algorithm but you're keeping the same thing, and your crowd and your audience will buy into that, because it's not just, I mean, if you play Uptown Funk today and then tomorrow you play Uptown Funk and the next day you play Uptown Funk, yeah, of course they're going to get bored. But you know, which some people do, and that is boring. But on the whole, there's so many ways that you can change up your content. You can put personality in, you can put emotion in, you can talk, you can do different techniques. You can then, in the breakdown, explain why you're doing it. I thought I'd go for a shuffle today. That's cool. And then you say to people, do you know how hard it is to play a shuffle groove at 80 beats per minute? Like, that's so hard, so I'm going to have a go at it. All of a sudden, there's a story in it. Can you do it? Can you not do it? That, to me, is interesting and it's intriguing, not just saying, here's another song. Yeah. So, you know, I think it's just tweaking those things, but I do think you can just keep going and going and going for a long time. Not weeks, I'm talking years.
Yeah, just let people into the story. Okay, cool. Bro, so question 3 is from Jack, and he's asking, how do you feel about band image? I'd rather have our band page focus more on the music, maybe using artwork for our singles, but some of my bandmates think we should have a photo shoot and create an image around us for our socials.
And this is a question which is something similar that I've heard for 20 years. Years and years and years. Because bands inherently want it to be about the music. I want it to be about the music because that's where the passion lies, is the music. And it's bullshit that a t-shirt makes a difference. But does it make a difference? And the answer is, it does make a difference. But, and there is a but, it does depend, because if it's about the music, like for example, you take a band like Snarky Puppy, or you take a band like Dream Theater, or you take a guitarist like Pliny, or those sorts of very, very technically competent players, Paul Bielatovich, those sorts of guys. All of a sudden, you're still personality, it's still about you. However, the playing is on such a high level that at that point then it is about the music, because you've made it about the music. But whenever we do these videos, there's always someone who pops up on YouTube and says, what about? And they'll always give me one example. You will always be able to find an exception to any rule ever. But should you adhere to being that one? Probably not. You should have a look into it. I would say, when you are in a band, does it matter about image? On the whole, we are in not only, what we used to say at BIM is, this is a fashion-based industry. It's not anymore. That was the thing 10 years ago, 20 years ago. The music industry is a fashion-based industry. Not anymore. It's just a fashion-based world. Like, these things now make a difference more than ever, because we are being judged so much heavier via socials, via pictures, by stuff that we're doing on our phones and our videos. It's just a fashion-based world. So does it matter? Yes, it does. Unless you are doing something which is so against everything. Like, for example, if you're actually avidly rebelling against that and you're saying we are going to do something which is anti-fashion, then great, you've got something to stand for. And weirdly enough, the fashion thing there and the statement there is the fashion is anti-fashion. So you can do that. But on the whole, here's an example. Do you remember, I don't know if you remember this, you might be a bit young, but there was an artist called Eagle Eye Cherry.
Yeah.
Did a song called Save Tonight. Now, Eagle Eye Cherry had this, whenever I'd see him do videos, he had this amazing thing where what he wore was so uncool that it was immensely cool. But if I put that on, I would just be uncool. Like, simple as that. So some people have this, they go for that really uncool thing and it makes them very cool. But for me personally, I see too many bands that are just uncool.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I see too many bands. I mean, if I could sum up a phrase that I say under my breath 60% of the time when you guys send me your stuff is, yeah, cool, bit boring, just a bit average. It's the same as everything else. It's not cutting through, and people are talking about cutting through, and I'm like, the reason why you're not cutting through is because of averageness, and it's harsh. But if you run the 100 meters, in 10 seconds, then there's a whole world of noise because everyone's running the 100 meters in 10 seconds. You run it in 9 seconds, and you fucking see how much noise is around you there. Nothing, because nobody can do that. So all of a sudden, there's no noise. You're just the fastest human being on the face of the planet. Simple as that. When it comes to bands, everyone's talking about noise, and I'm like, well, yeah, but you're in a world of average, and you're average, and it's horrible, but we've got to say it like it is. If you're average, then it's noisy. The more average you are, the more noisy it is. The more unique and awesome you are, the less noisy it is. When you talk about Snarky Puppy, when we're talking about like technical players, there's no noise. They're fucking better than everyone. I mean, when it comes to that musical genius of what they do, they're in a field of one. Like, there's nobody. They're just every time something pops up on my Facebook and it says Snarky Puppy, I'm stopping the world to play that, and it's usually 15 minutes. Yeah. And I'm sitting there and I'm just jaw on the floor watching it, thinking this is beyond any. Nothing else matters. It doesn't matter what the image is. It doesn't matter that they're all playing through headphones. It's just purely incredible. Yeah, so if you want to step out of the noise, be better than everybody else. You've got to analyze it and say, what can we do that's better? Fashion is one of those things. If you go and wear fucking green hat, a pink t-shirt, a red jacket, fucking no trousers so your dick's hanging out, you're going to get outside of the noise because no one's going to do that. I'm not saying you do that, but everyone does the same thing. It goes, oh, I'll wear a black t-shirt and some jeans. I'm like, okay, fine. Well, the music better be fucking good because there's too much of that. And when you do what we do, which is sometimes you have to sit and look through 50 Facebooks in an hour. So I've got 1 minute per Facebook to just bring it up and go, right, what am I looking at here? I've got 1 minute to suss this out, find out what they need to do, and then I'm on to the next one, and the next one, and the next one. If you think of it like that, how are you going to stand out within 50 Facebooks within 1 minute each? And that's tough. So, going against fashion, there needs to be a good reason for it. If there is a good reason for it, fine, but in my opinion, play the game. People want to be cool, and people want to attach themselves to cool things. And they might want to attach themselves to technical ability, or they might want to attach themselves to being in the coolest band. But on the whole, people want to attach themselves and be a part of a tribe, as Seth Godin always puts it, which is a very clever way of looking at it. They want to be part of that tribe. You've got to figure out what that tribe is. And I'm seeing too much average.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, we are on our final question, and this is from Leanne. She says, hey Damo, I caught your video last week on the best platforms for business, and I was hoping to ask about my own business. I have a small catering company that I'm trying to set up on my socials, and was wondering how best to figure out my target market for Facebook adverts.
I love business questions. I want more business questions, because there's some big stuff kicking off down here in Brighton, and I'm very excited about it. I feel like there's going to be some massive business opportunities for me personally at the moment, and and I'm loving being in the music industry, but, every single day from when I go to bed, when I wake up to when I go to bed is business, and the music industry for me is business. So business questions is definitely something I feel like I want to come, and how social media fits into that now. I really feel like I can help people. So this is a question that does also appeal to the rest of the people watching, which is musicians as well as business owners. If you haven't figured out what your demographic is, that is what's so fucking mind-blowing about social media. So way back in the day, you either had to guess or you'd have to advertise to everybody. Nowadays, we can start to break down that demographic so that when we're advertising on Facebook, we can advertise to just females between the age of 17 and 19 years old who are into Biffy Clyro. I mean, that's how specific we can advertise. We could never do that before. When I started BIM, it was print adverts. So I would be spending on every advert that went out in Guitarist magazine, which was probably 1,500 quid a page, times by Guitarist, Guitar Techniques, Total Guitar, Rhythm magazine, Bassist magazine, and Sound on Sound and The Stage. It's 10 grand a month. And I knew with that 10 grand a month, we're only hitting 5 to 10% of their audience who are even eligible for what we do. Because the other 90% are never going to come to a music college and study a qualification. On the whole, our target audience was 16 to 19. And we're advertising in guitarist magazines so that we can try and hit 10% of those 19-year-olds who buy Guitarist magazine. So I'm paying all of that money for 10%. So the other 90% of the people are seeing it, great, so they will talk about it and build a brand. I'm not saying it's not worth it, but it's still money wasted. I'm spending 90% of the budget. So if 1,500 quid an ad times by 6 or 7 ads, all of a sudden I'm spending 10 grand on advertising for effectively £1,000 worth of actually getting to people. We don't do that anymore. We say get rid of that 90%. I'm advertising to the exact demographic. Exact. And if Facebook says there's only 200 people in that area that qualify, you go, good, that's all I want to hit. I just want those 200 people. That's all I need. So that is just a bit of backstory on this question. And so therefore, what happens if you don't know your demographic? So then you have to start widening it. So I would say with a catering company, everyone watching this is probably going to agree with me. If you're going to go down the catering company right now, I would be looking at really good quality pictures on Instagram. I think that is because we all love food and really good quality shots. Food. Yeah, pictures of food, and because you've got the hashtag thing, so you can go in local. You can do competitions in the area of people sharing it within your local area. I think Instagram is so perfect for this. You can even talk to people. You can do free offers. You can do free things. This is Instagram. It's so good for Instagram. This, but that's quite obvious. But if you start pushing out your demographic onto Instagram and you actually start doing your competitions, your offers, bringing people in, I would then, taking this off social media, what I would be doing is I would be trying to build up some kind of database and trying to figure out what that demographic is. We talk about demographic a lot, and the good thing with social media is once you've been going for a while, you can go into your social media and you can see exactly what it is. So your ways of doing this is you can go on Facebook and you can advertise to lots and lots of people, and then it's a bit more expensive, it's a bit more old school. You can advertise to lots and lots of people, and then after 6 months you can go into it and say, okay, who's the people who actually like our page and actually, but even then, when it comes to buying, what's the demographic of people on the Facebook and what's the people who are actually walking in the door, which I think are very, very different things. And, for me, the reason why I do social media is because I want awareness. I want brand awareness for myself. However, for Leanne, I want money. I want people to come in and spend money on the restaurant or whatever it is. So for me, this is the catering company. So for me, I would be doing a mini questionnaire as many times as possible with feet on the ground. I would be doing stuff to start with offline so that I can find out my exact clientele, because what is the point in advertising digitally to find out the people who like the pictures of it, who are 15 to 18, and they're like, I love the pictures, if your actual market is 40 to 45 year olds. So for me, I would do a bit more on the ground old school snooping is what
market
I would
research.
do. Yeah, market research, you know, and I would be doing open days, and I would be doing questionnaires, and I would be giving out free stuff and saying, would you come here? Would you buy this? And, you know, I think that side of the business now is almost, weirdly enough, overlooked, because people want to just sit in their room and they want to ignore it, and they want to say, I should be able to do everything online. It's like, well, you probably can, but it's going to be a bit more expensive. Why not set up a really good open day? If it's a restaurant, it says catering company, but, you know, set up a really good open day, or go to a fair if you're a stall, set up and just say, we're going to give this to you for free on the condition you fill out this questionnaire. Everybody will do that.
Yeah.
Free hot dog, questionnaire, sold. Go away, fill out your questionnaire, you walk back in, there's your hot dog or whatever. Yeah, everyone's going to do that. And so therefore, you can actually put the questions in, so you can see age groups, you can see where they live, you can see what food they are, if it's vegetarian, if it's vegan, all those different things, the questions that you're asking, you're getting literally hands. You can talk to people. And, you know, that is what's beautiful about social media is talking to people. You know, I am currently talking to someone about building their social media platform. And once again, we are talking about how social media is just advertising. And it is not. It is everything in the whole business, because you're talking to people one-to-one. If you can talk, whether it's a band or a catering company, you could sit on Instagram or Twitter. You could sit on Instagram or Twitter from 4 in the afternoon until 10 at night, and you can just comment or talk to people and say, I have got this, can I ask you some questions? And lots of people will say yes. And it takes away the awkwardness of walking up to someone in the street with a flyer and say, please, can I talk to you? Because they'll say no every single time. So I think social media is great, but I do feel like in this instance, trying to find your demographic is going and having a look. It's the same thing with bands. I want bands to actually be looking at their gigs. I want them to be seeing the audience in the crowd and actually saying, who's coming to audience? You know, even having, when you come in, you've got that thing where you do the stamp. It's £3, you pay, you get your stamp on the hand and you go in. Why not just stop them for 10 seconds and just say 3 questions is all I ask? And it can be multiple choice questions, and it can just say your age, it can or even age brackets, which they can just circle. It could say, you know, where they live. Yes, you can add an email and telephone number and stuff, but taking that aside, sometimes it's just nice to say, who exactly are the people coming to our gigs? Because if your Facebook is very different to the people coming to your gigs, and the gigs is where the money's at, for example, then getting 10,000 people on Facebook fucking means nothing. You know, 10,000 people who go, I like your pictures, they're really, really pretty, doesn't mean you are going to get people to walk into your restaurant or buy your food. So you've got to target them, and it might mean you've got to target a different audience than the one who just keep liking you. Because if lots of people see your stuff and liking it, you're playing the wrong game, and you're playing the numbers metric, and you're saying, but every time I put a $5 in, I'm getting 100 people who like the page. Fantastic. But if that's the wrong demographic for people who will come and buy off you, in my opinion, you shouldn't be doing that. It's better to spend £5 to actually get to 2 or 3 people who will buy off you,
the right people,
and they will buy, because they'll buy off you. So that's the bit I would say. So this is work. This is talking to people. This is market research. This is doing stuff in the shop or catering. This is doing stuff online. There's a million ways of doing this, but I wouldn't, you know, all the old school way is just stick it out there to loads of people and then just see what comes back. But I think you could target a much better audience than doing that.
Yeah, and as you say, I mean, this is something you can use across all kinds of businesses and bands. It just works to
insights is so important. Yeah. I mean, there's so much to the social media stuff. It's not just come to my gig or buy my product, which is what 90% of people seem to think social media is. Here's me, do you want it? That's what people do. You can go back to some of the other questions. Here's me, do you want me? And it's like, well, talk to people, build relationships, look into why people want you, use this as market research, use this as a tool, find out information. There's a million things that you can do with social media, and that's why I think it's so important, because when I look at business, everything from customer service, you go, well, that can be done with social media, marketing, social media, competitions, that can be done social media, advertising, yeah, that can be done social media. Like everything just goes, you can do all this in social media. So use it more than just advertising push media. It's such a lazy way of using Facebook.
And there's, as you say, there's so many options where you can use it. So cool. And that's a nice positive note.
Hooray! Cool. Well, thank you very much for watching. So if you've got questions, I want these questions. I'd love more about business. If you're a musician thinking of going into business, or if you're not a musician and you just want to do some business stuff, then hit me up. I'll pick the best questions and we'll answer them on the show next week. If you wouldn't mind smashing the like button and the subscribe on YouTube and the like on Facebook, anything you need, give me a shout. Your best way of getting hold of me is Twitter. I'm probably all in at the moment on Instagram. I'm having real fun on Instagram for the first time since starting this social media drive. I've hated it for quite a while because I don't feel I'm very artistic, but I'm getting lessons of Sarah, and so I feel like I'm kind of catching up a little bit. So come and say hello on Instagram. It's damokeyes1. Otherwise, have a good week.
Until next time.
See you next week.